But why a design? Why did you choose design or art as a medium?
It was a very organic, go with the flow sort of energy. I am somebody who gets influenced very easily and I love to experiment and I'm a very free thinker. I wanted to explore and I wanted to do something with my life which was different from going into an office space and working on a computer. And I wanted to be on the ground and experience something more real and something more tangible. But I am looking at strengthening relationships, making more meaningful associations with these communities, and eventually like get a really strong backbone going. Invest in handmade, and encourage people to continue their tradition and craft. I am selfish because I want to be able to boast about my state, right? I want to be able to tell the world and beat the drum that, hey, look at what we have, look at our skilled people, so that the world starts appreciating it.
Welcome to the podcast, Richa.
Thank you, Charuka. I'm so honored to be here and be part of your show. I'm excited.
Same here. The privilege is mine, definitely. Okay, Richa. Let's start with. I'm very excited to have you here because I think there's a lot of things that I think I truly am curious to learn about you, and I think I have my own interest because you know your work is around culture, heritage, crafts, and this is something I really feel strongly about. But we'll get there. First, let's get to know you a little bit more for anyone who's tuning in and everyone who's tuning in. Can you introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and we'll start from there.
Sure. My name is Richa. I live in Bangalore. I have been by education and by profession in the software services industry for the longest. I used to work with SAP, which is a German software company. I used to be a product manager there. For almost 16 years, I worked with the company, and that was the only company really I worked with. So I was married to it, very loyal in that sense. And somewhere around COVID, like COVID has given all of us these little boons in disguise. I think I took a break from work because I wanted to spend more time at home, spend more time internalizing what I want to do in life. I was also turning 40, and I thought that this might be a nice place to kind of restart
Halt a
things.
bit,
Yeah, yeah.
really.
So, and I've never lived in Orissa, even though I am from Orissa. I mean, even as a child, I grew up in multiple cities because my dad used to work with the State Bank of India, and which meant we had transferable jobs. I mean, we had transferable
Moving
locations.
away from one
Moving,
spot to
yeah, sorry.
another.
Yeah, so it was really nice in a way because we got to adapt. But at the same time, I never really got to building roots. I never stayed in one place and built, a flavor for the language, for local jokes, for local food. And I think somewhere that I was missing all of that. And this was an opportunity for me to explore. My kids were a lot older, they were on their own. So I have two kids, they're both teenagers now. And so I took this liberty of exploring. So I went into the artery and vein of Orissa. And I
But
think
what
what
brought you back to Risai? Was it that did you have a longing for it, like you felt like you were missing something?
No, I think I wanted to explore and I wanted to do something with my life which was different from going into an office space and working on a computer. And I wanted to be on the ground and experience something more real and something more tangible. And I started with Orissa. Of course, like rural travel always excited me, and understanding the various cultures that we have in this country. I had to start somewhere. So I started with Orissa because it was really easy for me. It was my home state. And I got lucky with some friends who were connected to the International Labour Organization. So I kind of piggybacked on their ride. And they were at work, and I was able to then connect with what Orissa has to offer in terms of. So one is the number of stories that the state has to tell, like right from Kalinga times, Ashoka times, Buddhism influence, and all of that. Um, right from how the Kunak was built in the middle of a water body, how that got done, how it was held together with powerful magnets, just so that the waves wouldn't lash at it and break it down. It was built in the form of a chariot being pulled out of water with seven horses. And, in a way that the sun god, the deity, was such that the first rays of the sun would fall just below his feet. And the god was levitating in air. So how they managed it was north repels north and magnetism and all that. Imagine like back in the day if they were able to put together beautiful. So there are many, many stories which are packed in the land of Orissa. And what struck me was these stories are kept alive through weaving traditions in every weaving community across the state. And given we have almost 10% of the country's tribal community, and each of these communities are indigenous, right? They don't change much because they bring with them how they are. They don't kind of mix with people. They don't understand progress the way we understand, right? So they've really had a sort of timeless flavor in their way of life. They're unhurried. They're not running after targets the way an average human being would. You want that bank balance, you want that next promotion, you want that best education for your child. Whereas these people lead very simple lives. They wake up in the morning and they're like, okay, I need 300 rupees to survive my day, to feed my kids. How do I manage that? I'll work for 2 hours, 3 hours in the fields. I'll get it and I'll chill the next few hours in the day. And, okay, I need to cover my body with clothes because I need protection. So what do? I'll get the bark of a tree which is growing close by. I'll make thread out of it. I'll make a little something which will cover me wherever I need to, and that's my clothes. So these are practices that still prevail in many, many remote parts of Orissa, and somehow these stood out for me. And given my corporate backing, I think what I learned really well, thanks to SAP and thanks to my job, is the ability to present things, the ability to build narratives in a fun way so that the audience is able to receive it simply, right? So I think I wanted to take on this challenge of presenting these stories from across these communities in a way that the world is able to understand and appreciate them, because I feel like that respect and recognition is something that these communities deserve.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's where my journey started. And to tell you honestly, like some things that stood out at me was, one of the communities is a community that came in from Africa almost 60,000 years ago. They're the Bonda community. They live in South Orissa. And these women, till date, they have not moved, spatially. And they have lived on the same Bonda hills it's in Malkangiri. And they cover themselves with beads all over. They don't wear clothes otherwise. And they have this little loincloth which they make on their own. They have little looms at home, like, rudimentary hand looms, backstrap weaving. And every woman in that community is able to, use this thread from the bark of a tree and weave multicolored ringas for themselves using organic vegetable dyes or whatever. And it looks quite beautiful and they're very nicely put together. So if you look at them, you feel like, wow, this is stylish. And there's another community called the Dongriya Kandha community, which they only wear white saris, and they wear saris in a way that, it ends on the knee, so it's very loosely, casually draped, and they have one knot at the back, and they have bare backs, and they have nothing else in terms of accompanying the sari, but they look quite beautifully put together. And what they weave is a certain shawl. The whole community would weave only that one shawl, where they represent mountains and forests and rivers, because they kind of they pray to their mother earth surrounding them, because they believe that mother earth gives them security, protection, food. Everything is coming from nature, so they weave that and they pray to that, and their temples have those painted. So it's quite stunning how these stories differ from tribe to tribe and from community to community. So what we do at Boito, we just pick up these pieces, what as they build it, and we sit with a designer to say that how can we present it in the form of a trench coat, or in the form of a blazer, or in the form of a loose casual bomber that the world can start using, and at the same time be able to pump that, um, infuse that pride back into these systems, because otherwise they're dwindling. Because otherwise, there's no way the next generation is going to take it up,
Going
or
to
this,
survive that.
yeah, or
Yeah.
even this community having the faith to continue doing what they're doing, unless there's something being shifted back into the community, pumped back into the community. I don't see how, we'll only read about it in documentaries or books in future. So that's really the attempt.
So these stories that you've been mentioning, I love that India has so much to offer, and I think Southeast Asia specifically, like, there's so much of culture, there's so much of craft, there's so much of heritage that one can look. It's not one state, it's so many. Like the whole map of India has so much to offer, and there's so much. The more you go, there's so many stories that we can all hear. Um, Tell me something. What did you were you someone who was also, let's say, interested in these stories before you started this, or as you paved your path on this journey, you just learn more and more and it's got you now? Like, did you have an inclination towards something like this even before, if not just, let's say, not say Tamil Nadu, but just in general also,
Yeah, so when it comes to Orissa, I've grown up on stories. Everybody in Orissa is a brilliant storyteller, let me tell you that, because also we have a lot of content in terms of stories. So my grandmother would tell me lots of stories and
So
I would
you've
thrive
heard
on
those
them.
stories in the sense of your own
I have,
passing
yeah.
down of from by your mothers, grandmothers, and how that goes.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I've grown up on stories. I've enjoyed my storytelling sessions. Almost like, finish your food fast because there's a story waiting at the end of it. So, yeah, so it's been, but I wouldn't say that I knew all these stories in advance. Obviously, it was a learning curve, and it was a huge learning curve. I mean, I'm ashamed to admit that I didn't know of so many crafts that existed within the state of Orissa. And when it just comes to handloom, we have 17 different weaving clusters across the state. And apart from that, we have handicrafts. We have the Patachitra, we have the cow dung craft, which you wouldn't have heard of. Using cow dung and mud, they make dolls. We have the wax dolls craft, and then we have dokra, the heat and beats.
Yeah, Dokra, yeah.
Yeah. So we have
Yeah,
tons and tons of craft that's staring in our face. And I really want to be able to do some sort of design collab work
right.
so that, maybe we end up designing tabletops with Patachitra or blinds or lampshades or, something which kind of uses skill sets, and therefore people who have the skill set feel even more leverage or feel even more uplifted that, hey, you know what, I know dokra and I'm pretty cool that I know dokra. That feeling has to come into artisans. I think I'm after that.
And why a design? Why did you choose design or art as a medium and fashion as a medium um to communicate and to do this work? Specifically coming from software, I mean, like, why this, how and why this combination has happened for you?
Yeah, I think that's a very valid question. I've also been thinking of the answer myself, but it was a very organic, go with the flow sort of energy. I am somebody who gets influenced very easily, and I love to experiment, and I'm a very free thinker. So I don't have too many boundaries like that. And because I started exploring Orissa and all of these things sprung at me, I said, why not give it a shot? Why fashion? Because for me, Orissa is the brand. And I want, because Orissa is a land of art, craft, culture, like you rightly put it. And it's also very untapped. Like people don't know about it, right? It's quite hidden. So for me to be able to bring these things to the fore, I felt like fashion was an easy route because people keep buying clothes all the time and people are into, it's an easy route to kind of bring the story to the fore. So maybe today it's fashion, tomorrow it could be something else. But these are ways to circulate the traffic and to keep bringing things to the fore. And I'm experimental, so we'll figure out, through the journey.
So, what has been your journey so far? What have you? How have you started? What have you been your steps so far? What have been your learning so far?
Yeah, I'll tell you. What have we started? I mean, I have a really funny story because I came from a corporate background. I went into, in the beginning, I said, "Oh my God, these are such beautiful textiles." Even the Bandha textiles, right? Where they do tie dye, they can't do beyond 12 meters at one go of a certain textile because it's literally like, there's a lot of complicated math that goes into bundling the threads,
And
that
it's a
goes
lot
into
of
drawing the
handwork. Everything is
pattern.
being done
It's a lot
manually.
of handwork, right? So if you're drawing a little story onto a sari, imagine you're drawing a village scene where you have some trees, some people, some huts, some monkeys. All of these figures have to be tied manually onto your threads, and then the thread is going to be dipped in one particular color, and then it's going to be covered, and then another color and another color. So you have to keep doing this tie dye, resist dyeing, and then finally it's prepared and put onto the hand loom, and then somebody sits and weaves it. So it's a lot of work, right? That plus these tribal textiles that are talked about, like the Bonda community, the Dongria community, and all of these things were obviously staring at me that do something about it. These are so beautiful, right? So I took a designer friend into Orissa, right? And I'm telling you from the beginning of my journey, since you asked, right? It could be a little bit of a long answer, please bear with me. But but yeah, so this designer friend of mine, Anshu Arora, I really liked the clothes that they make. She had a label of her own, so I said, listen, you just have to come with me to Orissa, and she
Look at
agreed,
it.
like, yeah, to kind of understand how. And she's not somebody I knew in advance. She's just somebody I reached out to because I loved her designs, and I said, I pitched to her. I took my laptop. I said, okay, here is all what Orissa has to offer, and if you're excited, please come with me to Orissa. So she came with me, and she sat with the weavers. She sat with these communities, and she said, okay, you know what can we do in terms of a design tweak? I know you make this in yellow and red, and I know you make fish, and I know you make turtles of this size. Can we expand the turtle a bit? What would it mean to you if we expanded it from a 2 inch to a 4 inch? Can you actually do it? Is it easy for you? Would you want to do it? So it was a very weaver led discussion. Um, and we said that, okay, we want to change these colors to, let's say, a mauve and a mud brown because we want the world to be able to consume what you make, right? And not just let it die out here. And I think whatever consensus we were coming to together as a unit with the weavers as well as the designer, we took those calls and we started designing. So first step was to actually meet with the weavers. And so even before this first step, step zero actually for me alone was to figure out if there is a capacity or there is the ability in me to actually onboard weavers, facilitate this, right? So the first weaver that I went to, I thought he was quite excited. I was very happy. I took, and I said, I want this. Can you please do it? These are your designs only. I chose from his textiles, his saris. I said, just do it for me in these shifted colors and all. Okay. So I came back. I sent him an Excel sheet, and I said, okay, this is the pattern. I put pictures. This is the color, this is the number of meters, and this is the estimated time of arrival, almost like that. And I said, please validate, are you okay to deliver like this? He lost it. He didn't respond to my calls for 2 months. So
Oh
it was
God.
yeah, so I've had a lot of these funny tales across. I'm giving you one of them. But somehow we managed to, I think, because I had faith in Orissa and because I kind of believed that this talent is not to be found anywhere else. Let's just stick on. Let's just persevere, and we'll see. Because I wasn't in a hurry, and thankfully, I'm in a stage of life where I didn't need the money immediately. So there's no need for me to rush into things. My kids are kind of settled. My husband has an okay, like he's got enough for us to survive this life. That's good on that. So I think for me the path was clear that I have the time to experiment. I wasn't rushing anything. So once I started spending more time with them, understanding their ways of work, having lunches and chai with them, I think that's when the little bit of
You
a
got
switch
in
over
building a
happened. Yeah.
relationship, I think specifically, because it isn't. I think the way tribal communities in these um, the handcraft industry works is, you know, there's it isn't like a corporate office or like there's a very community led relationship based and word based community where there's so much trust for years and years, and also very close knit tight communities. Like I've myself worked a lot specifically, like, from Agra, from Lucknow. We also have a business where we, work with um, manufacturers and, craftsmen and everyone. And I do see this that um, for them it is also like the thing is that there's so many people who've come and taken advances in the sense of they want to do something, and end up hurting them or wasting their time or building a distrust that I think they're very wary of what's coming their way.
Absolutely. You've hit the nail exactly where it should be hit. And that is why, this building trust activity took me forever. But it paid off in the end because now we're friends. Like I love these new friends that we've made in the last year or so. It's such a fresh wave, to understand that like the last time I went, he there was this curd, the buttermilk that he got for me, which was the dahi was basically made using the local cow's milk, and it tasted different. And then he put this freshly plucked lemon leaf into it, torn it, and put. I tell you, like even today, I can taste that buttermilk. It was so good.
Yeah, I think in the lives that we're living, everything has got so commoditized, so commercialized with social media. I think we've reached a point that we forgot even the organic has been so much capitalized and commoditized in that
Exactly,
sense.
right? Everything is you look at it with a suspectful eye that
Yeah, and
maybe.
also it's so rightly said, like India is a country where everything was organic in the sense, like the way our food palettes are built, the spices, the vegetables, um everything that we've consumed so far has been, like, even for the rurals and the villages, still the way they consume is so much better than we do. The pesticides, and there's so much toxics that we consume in today's time in the name of you know luxury, expensive, organic, that we've all been confused now that what really is a treasure. And um
Is
it's
good for
just,
you. Yeah.
yeah, because it does not matter that with branding, where I do appreciate the business and all of those things that bring in the world, but I think arts, crafts, these are a reminder for all of us to, like, in a way, in a time that we're living, the fast paced life where everything can be delivered in 10 minutes right to your house.
We have to bring that. Yeah, that is the biggest problem. You've just said exactly what, because earlier I remember when I was just married, Sundays would be those times that I'd go out with my husband to a grocery store. We make lists, figure out together this. So it was a very together activity that we enjoyed doing. But now it's a matter of Zeptoing it, or Dunzoing it, and we don't get that time together. So in a way, this convenience is coming with a trade-off.
Yeah.
And I think that's also what we're trying to attack through the slow fashion space that we're in, right? I mean, so if you look at it, like cars don't change their silhouettes or colors every 6 months. They don't have seasonal launches, but the fashion industry does,
Yeah,
and
the more,
somehow.
I think, in this economy of more and more and more, and I think as artists also, like, I just love the magic where artists and artisans, if they come together, because um there's such a cool combination in the sense of, I feel, in the way today, I think a lot of artists are struggling with this idea of being on social media, content creation, fast production, where the essence of art, there of course are, let's say, pros to it, where the skill building, etc., 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 there's always something good that you can find in all situations. But the biggest con, I feel, is like, um just the art of making, just the process, how soothing that process is, how intuitive that process, being it in itself a very therapeutic process, and not just, let's say, a sales process or a selling or a marketing or a branding or a content creation. And I feel like um the tribal communities, it's such a big trade off for them, in the sense of to be able to keep their legacy survive, like to be able to survive that legacy, they have trade off and protected themselves from a lot of things so far. And the hindsight of that is that they haven't been able to access or get the support that they deserve, and um the heritage that they've been building and taking forward so far. But also, they still been in a lives that we are living, I think they've been able to protect their crafts. and not make it as commercialized. And I've seen that there's a fiercely they fiercely protect themselves from this idea that they do not want to be overly commercialized, and they understand that their core is they have to protect their craft so much that it doesn't take away, like nothing takes away that.
Yeah, yeah. No, you've said it absolutely. Even when we are working with these communities, we're being very, very mindful that we don't create a shift because see, I sitting in Bangalore, I'm craving that life. So I can't move their life out of what it is today, right? Because that is the beauty of it. So, but at the same time, I want them to have access to clean toilets. I want them to have access to, women use gunny sacks in some of these communities instead of sanitary napkins. So, and these are things they're not even exposed to, and they're pretty okay with, life the way it is presented to them.
But you know what? I'll tell you something. The other day, I saw an advertisement, um, and this was, I don't know, this was on Facebook or something, and I found it so strange because in India, I've seen even before, like around the time I was born, and I'm sure you must, of course, know that. Um, I saw my grandmothers in, with sanitary. Um, Spare cloths, cotton sanitaries, they were made at home, where people used to, use cloth based sanitaries, and then the plastic came, and all of those things. And I was seeing this ad where this brand has they've introduced first organic cotton based sanitaries, where what it is particularly is just a stitched way of sanitaries, what and disposable, and once throw use and throw kind of a stuff. Because of course sanitaries, the plastic that we're using, it gives you rashes, and it's long hours, and etc etc. And it brought me thinking that really the life that we're living, we really do not know what's right, like what's evolution and what's progress and not progress. Because we really are calling it progress, but we've seen, because I saw my grandmothers use cotton based wasteful fabrics, and they were so conscious about repurposing things, when even what it wasn't trendy. Like we spill, this is like a joke, running joke for Indians, that you'll have a drawer full of polythene bags and paper bags, just we collect them and repurpose them. It wasn't cool, it wasn't a phenomena in the sense of, oh, we are sustainability, and it was just very regular practices that we have as a culture, we've always had.
It was a healthy
Yeah,
practice. I would fully
yeah.
agree with that. Yeah, yeah. And see, the thing is that that was healthy, but what I'm talking about is
No,
having
I
access
understand,
to,
sure.
yeah,
Yes. No, no, I completely understand that they may not have access to a lot of things, but what I'm just trying to say is in the sense that um we this is so confusing in the times that
whether
we are
it's
living.
progress or, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah.
what do we keep intact, and what do we take forward in the name of progress and technology? Because it is only that you go further 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and you realize, oh, what we had was much better than what we have. I think we've come to that point now that we understand, oh, we didn't come from a technology world, but the peace in the mind that we had, or we didn't come from a fast fashion world. Now, if we see talking about homegrown brands, it has become trendy. I grew up in a small town where we, for a very long time, we did not even have access, and we did not even know about brands. We would wear it wasn't a cool thing, but it was just a regular thing we all would in India. The brand culture came really later. We all would wear homegrown. I mean, we still in the Indian wear, and whatever the suits and the saris we buy, the designers and labels and all of this have come now. But for so many years, we were always homegrown, supporting local businesses.
No, in fact, even I, as a child, would only get one set of clothes on Diwali every year. I don't remember getting more than that. So, in a way, like it was good because then you would wait for it and then you would earn it. Um, but now you can't say that to my kids, like they would not agree to something like that. You already exposed them to so much.
Yeah. Yeah, life has changed a lot, I think, and we're all still, I think, post COVID, a lot of things have changed in the life that we're living now. But let's see, where does it go?
So what I'm saying is these communities, because their belief systems are all housed in their textiles. So if we pick up that, for example, in Kotpar, they have something called a bilay chhap, meaning a cat's paw. So they make that as a motif, and because they considered it auspicious at some point in time. So can you imagine considering a cat's paw auspicious? Like world over, nobody would have heard, but in a little village somewhere, this was considered. Now, coming from 300 years ago, or their grandfather's generation, great grandfather's generation, that trend continues because their textiles don't change, their motifs don't change. So that's what I mean by the timelessness of their textiles.
Yes, I absolutely.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to use these little historical motifs and patterns and convey that you will buy less, buy two coats a year, buy two clothes a year, but invest in handmade, and encourage people to continue their tradition and craft.
But also, I think is what's the beauty about, I love handmade and I love Indian crafts, and specifically crafts Southeast Asian, how all parts of the world we have so many different techniques. What I really love is that the I think the beauty of about crafts is the stories that they carry, not only the aesthetic, but what is very common amongst everything is that there is always a story behind everything and everything. I mean, it's like, we are taking these stories and these beliefs in our heritage and everything, year on year, passing it on to generations. I love pieces like, um, our mothers have worn, our grandmothers have worn. I still wear my mom's stoles and shawls, and it something that maybe some of those are that my mom had from her um mother, and like it it reminds you that how, where you come from, like in the world of everything new, it's so important to know that where we come from and the stories that have been, that are not of only today but also way beyond us.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it is an attempt to not let, because see what's happening is weavers are falling prey to power looms now, because people want fast output, right? And people want designs that people can, just immediately, even as saris, for example, you want modern prints, you want, so what happens then is that the weaver is doing things that the world wants, and the world wants fast fashion. Um, which then the weaver is not feeling challenged to do. It's just that he's getting succumbed to it. So unless there's a pull on the opposite side, there's no way for the weaver craft to survive.
Now tell me something, what is your vision with Boita, and can you talk a little bit about exactly how are you doing this, and what are your plans for the future?
So with Boito, okay, Boito literally means a boat in Odia, and traditionally it was used to carry cargo off the coast of Orissa because we had access to a port, Bay of Bengal, right? So we used to make woven textiles like very fine cottons and silks, and these families would depend on this textiles income, the income that was brought in with the sales of these textiles for the year, for them to see them through the year, that income, right? So these textiles were woven through the year and they were loaded onto a boat. This boat was called a boito, a beautiful swan kind of head, and it was decorated before it traveled far into the east. And these ancient mariners or sadabas, they would get onto the boat with this cargo and they would go into lands of Burma, China, Indonesia. It was also called Bali Jatra, like the travel from Orissa to Bali. So you'll have a lot of Odia influence in Bali,
Oh,
actually.
really?
Yeah, yeah, a lot of
Oh,
people settled there.
oh wow, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
it's quite, yeah. So they would go in the month of October, November, and they would come back home
Come
after
back.
the circuit
Oh, it
in
became kind of
March,
a
April.
migration.
Yeah, so no, so it was like they were away from home for almost 3, 4 months, doing trade, cultural exchange, understanding from others, selling their produce or bartering or whatever. And they would bring back fortune into the land of Kalinga. So that was the Boito. And that is what our brand stands for, really. We're trying to expose crafts and handloom from Orissa to the world. That's really, or to everybody else, like whoever is keen on it. Um, what is my plan with Boito? I want to take it easy and slow because, like I said, I don't want to disrupt anything. These people lead very beautiful lives. I am selfish because I want to be able to boast about my state, right? I want to be able to tell the world and beat the drum that, hey, look at what we have, look at our skilled people. And I want to find the best way to be able to do that, balancing fully well that we don't disrupt their unhurried lifestyle. We respect that fully, we tread with caution. But at the same time, I need to be able to build stories and package them and build garments and build other beautiful things using this craft and art so that the world starts appreciating it. I also want to be able to set up centers of Boito in all these remote corners, which can then become even, if we start doing well and we have money flowing in, we can kind of uh, push back money into these communities through these centers, which can deal with anything that the community needs eventually.
I think that's a really good vision.
Yeah. So and to me, like right now, I'm not really going aggressively after sales. That's not a target at all. But I am looking at strengthening relationships, making more meaningful associations with these communities, and eventually like get a really strong backbone going and think about sales finally. Yeah, because we do want to make very beautiful products, make products that the world appreciates, and eventually be able to pump back money into the system, right? The entire value chain has to get impacted. So that will be the ultimate, desire to be able to tell these stories and narratives across.
I think that's a really, really good vision. And I think the work that you're doing is incredible. And I really hope that you do not, not only take it to India, but to the world. I think we really have a huge heritage. And I think art lovers and creative lovers and people who really appreciate, we all, no matter where we're sitting in the world, we truly understand the labor and the intensity of these handcrafted heritage born, like the way this work is done, it's not easy. We all understand that, and I hope that the world recognizes it. It does. I think from art to fashion, we see every now and then how these crafts are coming and it's become more and more popular. But I only hope that the vision of yours only comes to life. Thank you so much, Richa. It was so nice speaking to you.
I absolutely loved speaking with you, Charuka, and I hope you keep inspiring people like me.
Oh, thank you so. Same here. And for everyone who's listening, where can they follow you? How can they learn about Boito more? Can you just let us know?
Sure. So we have an Instagram page. We're also on LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter. We are called boito.in. And our website is going to come up very soon, within the next month or so. So we are hoping to Instagram. Actually, we are quite active already. We have published a lot of artisans' tales, techniques, how ikat is made, how tribal textiles are built
I'll
out.
encourage people to go really watch that to learn more about the work and the handicrafts.
Yeah, so I think these little stories and travelogues we keep publishing, and yeah, I think that's where we are.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Rich. I look forward to speaking you again where you have more to share with us.
Absolutely, Charuk. I look forward to meeting you in person as well.
Same here.
You take care. Yeah. All right. Lovely talking. Bye.